Hello guys, it's Kasim. How you doing? I hope you're okay. I hope everything is okay in your life. You're keeping healthy. You're working on your goals. Um, Welcome back again to my channel. So there was something that I wanted to talk to you about, which I think might be able to add some value to the quality of your life, perhaps, or maybe might be something for you to think about, based on my experience and the way and the advantage that I have because I've spoken to so many people, which is around this question of what things do I hear older women say about aging, about life, that I'm seeing a lot of the younger generation, the younger women don't actually recognize. And I wanted to, as I say, I wanted to share this with you because maybe there might be something for you to think about. But I've been in a really privileged position in that I get to obviously, because I'm in the counseling, therapeutic, coaching world, I get to speak to a lot of people. I've spent a lot of time researching people and behavior and interviewing people who are much older. So I've got an advantage which most people will never have. Most people will never speak to anywhere near as many people as I have. And so I wanted to pass on what some of the things that I have learned. Maybe they might be of some use to you in your life. But before I get into it, guys, if you want to help support me get to 1,000 subscribers by June, please can you like and subscribe to my channel? You would be an absolute legend. Okay, so cool. So I wrote down 4 things that are pretty common that I hear older women talk about. Older, when I talk about older, I would probably say women who are 40 plus. Okay, that doesn't mean they're old, it just means they're older in comparison to women who are like 18 or 20. So the first thing that I hear a lot of older women talk about is that as you get older, you are judged not on how hard you work, but by other areas. And those areas are kids, with how many kids you have, your husband, your home, and your social status. So I've noticed that a lot of women today, the younger they are, they tend to determine uh, how successful they are based on their careers. And what I find when I speak to women who are much older, women who are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, is that they no longer judge how well they're doing in life based on their career. In fact, rarely do they ever talk about their career. What they talk about and how they're judged is that as you get older, as a woman, you're judged on, do you have kids? Do you have a husband? Um, do you have a home? And what is your social status? These are the things that I've noticed tend to be very common amongst women who are 40 years plus. And and I think it's really important to understand this because what I've noticed is that a lot of women don't allow women who are married and women who have kids don't like to allow women in their social circle. Well, of course, part of the reason is, look, if you've got a husband who's doing really well financially, you've got kids with him, and you have a friend of yours who's single, you don't want your single friend anywhere near your husband because you know what's going to happen, right? Of course, that doesn't mean that you've got bad friends, but it increases the chances of that woman getting with your man, who you spent loads of time working with to get to the position that you are. But also the other issue is, and it's something that I hear a lot of women say who are single, who are very successful in their careers but are single, is I hear them say this phrase where they're like, "Cassim, I feel invisible. My friends are leaving me out." Right? They have their girly club, but they go out as mums, but they don't invite me out. Yet we've known each other for years, right? And a lot of women don't understand that you need your social circle, right? And women just don't want you around their social circle when you're not like them, right? Because they have to protect themselves, they have to protect their marriage, they have to protect their husbands, they have to protect their children, and they have to be really vigilant of this. This doesn't mean that you're a bad person, and a lot of the time a lot of women do this subconsciously, but it's just something for you to think about. It's just that women and society as a general rule just don't judge you the same as you get older. They judge you in terms of how many kids you have, are you married, do you have a home, and what is your social status. And you have to remember that all of these are not just about having this. Like, for example, being married isn't just about being married. being married shows that you're somebody who's committed. It shows that you're somebody who's disciplined. It shows that you're somebody who's willing to make sacrifices. It isn't just about getting married, right? Um, and one of the other things that I was thinking about regarding this, as I listened to so many women, is that when you decide to either get married or have kids, one of the things that it shows is that it shows that you're somebody who's maturing in life. Because people do tend to use markers such as, are you married? Do you have children? These are markers of maturity, right? Of course, it doesn't mean that there are some people who can mature at 20, there's some people who can mature at 30, there's some people who are naturally maturing at 15. But you need a marker. You need to know. We need in order to determine whether you're on track or you're doing well, you need to have some kind of marker. It doesn't mean that the marker is set in stone, but we know that having kids, getting married, having a home, social status, all of these are indicators of where you are at life and where people should be relating to you in terms of life. And so I just thought it would be something for you to think about. You may be focusing a lot on your career and you think it's going to be the be and all for you, but I'm just saying to you that from what I see, a lot of women who are like over 40, their career is the last thing they talk about. They just don't talk about their career. They talk about their kids. They talk about how well their kids are doing. They talk about are they on the social status? I mean, are they on the children's school board and things like that? They talk about their partners and they talk about their home a lot. This is what they talk about. These are the things that typically tend to be very important to them. The second thing that I hear is, which is a common thing that I hear from women who are older, is that as you age, you're going to need support. You know, there's a lot of women who are very independent. They're very much into the whole, I can take care of myself, I don't need a man. But the reality of life is, as you get older, you need support, right? And a lot of women, one of the things that they forget is that being independent is really tiring. It's really tiring, right? And this is where wisdom, I guess, it comes in, because as a woman, you have to be so wise that you recognize that, yes, you can be independent, but if you leave it too late, you're going to find it hard to find a partner. It is going to be much easier for a woman to find somebody who she can bind with and work with in her 20s versus when she's in her 40s. Because a lot of people who are in their 40s are going to be married. They're going to be in long-term relationships. So you finding a partner in your 40s is a very difficult thing to do. Now, in saying that, there is a lot of people, obviously, who divorce usually in their late 40s, but that means you're going to be alone for that huge chunk of your life. For like 15, 20 years, you're going to be alone, right? And you have to think about the fact that, look, if all your friends all have children and they're all settling down, you have to think about, what the hell who are you going to go on holiday with? Who are you going to go for meals with? Because your friends can't just, like, they have families, so they can't just go out for meals and spa days and things like that. This stuff costs money, and their priorities to their partner and to their children. That's where they want to be spending most of their money and investing most of their money. And you have to think about this stuff. Like, your life, this is why a lot of women who get older use that word, they feel invisible. Because it's like nobody really cares about you. You're really successful, you're doing really well in your career, but that's not, as you get older, that's not what people find valuable in terms of women, right? As you get older, as a woman, one of the great assets, the thing that separates women from men is being able to have children. It is the most clear, really evident thing that separates men and women. And the issue is, if you can't do that, then what need is there for in terms of society for you? Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that women don't have other values in terms of being a great friend, in terms of being a member of a community, in terms of their contribution, in terms of their career. That doesn't mean that. But a huge chunk of why we need women in society and their great advantage to everybody in society is that they're able to bear children, right? I don't know. It's just something for you to think about. I don't know whether but you're just going to need support, okay? As you get older, you're going to need support. You're going to age. It's going to be tiresome. You're going to be tired. You're not going to be able to work 50, 60 hours a week. It's every day, all year. you're just not going to be able to do it. And you're going to be lonely and you're going to feel invisible. That is just how it just seems to me. It seems to work out. Now, as I've always said, there's always an exception to every rule, and you might be the exception. There is a cost to your attitude and demeanor due to your life experiences. So I wrote this down because one of the things that I've noticed is that when you are somebody who has gone through life and you've been betrayed a lot and you've been independent and you've not relied on anybody, the issue that you then have is that there is a lot of skills that you don't learn that are helpful in trying to have connections with people that basically make you a nightmare to live with, that make you a nightmare to actually form relationships and friendships with and connections with, right? And you hear, for example, I wrote down here that experiences make men stronger, but they make women bitter. It's something that I've noticed, right? You've probably noticed where a man, society, like when men go through stuff, they're expected, if they've gone bankrupt, if they have had mental health problems, when they go through that, it makes them stronger. But as a general rule, I've noticed that when women go through really hard times in their life, they've been cheated on a lot, they've gone through a divorce, it actually sends them the opposite way and they become bitter. They hate all men are trash, they're never going to get married. Like women, it seems to be, when they go through a lot of hardship in their life, they don't come through as more positive, as more loving, as more passionate, as more empathetic. They actually just go the darker route. They hate all men, they don't want to get involved, they're cold, like the huge defense goes up, which is understandable. I can understand that. All of us can understand that. But my point being is that if you've gone and lived your life all independent, it is going to be very difficult to switch over to as you get older, to needing somebody. It's very, very difficult. That's why you sometimes see women who are like 50, 60, single. And they're really beautiful. And they're really intelligent. But the issue is, because they've been so independent, or they've been hurt so much that they've decided to clock out of life, out of connection with anybody, when they do need support, when they do need somebody to help them, they can't make the switch over. It's too difficult. They haven't got all the skills which they needed along the way, because a lot of people forget that heartache, failure, miscommunication, breaks up, all of this is actually what makes you a better person. You hear people say it's better that you're single and you stay alone and you find out who you are and then get into a relationship. That's not true, right? Because how you learn about yourself is actually through relationships. You, for example, get into a relationship, you thought that you were really good at not being triggered, your partner says something to you and it triggers you. You learn something about how you deal with being triggered, right? You lash out, you become cold, you keep sex from them, you wait for them to apologize. You thought you were a person who was very empathetic, always forgiving, but now you're in a relationship, you refuse to accept responsibility and you refuse to be the one to say sorry, and your partner has to say sorry, right? And you wouldn't learn that about yourself unless you've actually going through it. And a lot of us have noticed, both men and women, we try to stay away from experiencing those parts, the negative parts of life, but the negative parts of life have a role. Many of us just want the positive, the love bits, but that's just 50%. That's just one part of life in itself. So to finish that off, it's that be careful about your attitude. Be careful about being too independent. Be careful about saying that you're going to do it your way. Be careful about clocking out of life and walking away, because it's going to be a cost to you down the road, right? You can't be alone forever. I was saying to somebody, people don't understand. If let's say you're a powerful woman and you work really well and you work independently until you're 50, but you have no spouse, and you retire from 50 until, let's say, you die at 90, that's 40 years. 40 years is a very, very long time to be alone. It's a very long time to be alone. But I don't know. It's just something for you to think about. The last thing that I wrote down here is that you will change your mind about what is important, about stuff, right? when women are younger, one of the things that I've noticed is that they tend to be absolute about everything. I'll never change. I'll never have kids. I'll never get married. I'll never own a house. I'm always going to be career orientated. There's a lot of women who have that mindset. They're absolute on everything. But when you speak to a lot of older women, many of them say, you know, when I was younger, I didn't want kids, but now I do. When I was younger, I never thought I'd get married and I hated the idea of marriage, but I managed to find somebody who I actually wanted to marry. When I was younger, I never liked associating myself with women. But as I've got older, I've seen that there is an advantage to women and having a support system of women around me. In other words, as it seems to me, as women get older, they begin to realize that they change. Women change. Your preferences change. What is important to you changes as you get older. And it's important to understand that, because you need to account that into your plans. Because that doesn't mean that you're going to change, but if you do change, you need to ensure that you account that, right? So for example, one of the things that I see a lot today is that there's a lot of women freezing their eggs. Why? Because let's say, God forbid, you can't find, you at the moment you're like, I'm never going to find somebody who works with me, I'm never going to get married, I'm never going to find a spouse, and you decide not to freeze your eggs, and you do find somebody when you're 40, you're fucked. You are absolutely fucked. Obviously you can't use your own eggs to carry your child, right? And I say this to guys all the time: do not have a vasectomy as a man, because you have no idea. Because if you have it, right, you are foolish to be able to do this, because you don't know yourself. You haven't lived life long enough. Now, if you do it when you're like 35, completely get it. But when you're doing it in your 20s, you're foolish, because you don't know yourself enough yet. You haven't lived life long enough to be able to make those kinds of decisions. You can't be so absolute, right? You haven't had enough life experience yet to be able to make such decisions. So I guess my point there, and the thing that I just get you to think about is, do you recognize that you're going to change as you get older? It will be very unlikely that you don't change, because as you experience life, life changes you. You know, I wrote down a statement which I'm due to talk about, to do a video on trauma, and one of the things that I wrote down about trauma is, and I don't even think I have it here. What did I write about trauma? Oh, I don't have, oh, it's on my phone. But one of the things that I wrote down about trauma is that trauma actually changes you, right? When you lose you will be shocked at the amount of people where when they lose everything is going perfect, then their father dies suddenly from cancer. Their entire world, they go into depression, they start drinking, like their relationship starts decaying, they get to the point where they're divorced. Like, you would be shocked at how quickly life goes downhill, and you did not expect it. It wasn't in your plans. You thought you were on course. You'd be shocked, right? You'd be shocked at how many women, their entire lives, they're going to be career driven, blah blah blah. One day they meet somebody, the love of their life, they weren't expecting it, it came out of nowhere, and now they're in love. I said, whoa, where did this come from, right? So I just thought I would share those with you. I don't know whether they're useful for you or not, but I hope they've added some value to you. Please, if you want to support me get to 1,000 subscribers by June, please like and subscribe to my channel. You'd be an absolute legend. But apart from that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.